You will never fire a single bullet, you'll never kick down a door or fast rope from a helicopter. But sitting behind a screen in a building that doesn't appear on most maps, you might shut down an enemy's power grid, cripple a foreign weapons program, or quietly watch a terrorist cell plan an attack and dismantle it before they ever press send. Your battlefield is invisible, your weapons are code, and almost no one will ever know what you've done. This is what it's like to be every hidden NSA cyber rank. This video is a dramatization for entertainment and educational purposes. The details presented are based on publicly available information, including government job postings, congressional testimonies, and investigative reporting. Specific operations, tools, and internal processes remain highly classified. The National Security Agency is America's largest and most secretive intelligence organization, responsible for signals intelligence and cybersecurity on a global scale. Within its walls, operates a layered hierarchy of cyber professionals whose ranks are almost never discussed publicly. Today, we're walking through every level of that hidden ladder, from the analyst who just got their badge to the director shaping national cyber strategy. Let's begin. You're sitting in a windowless room at Fort Meade, Maryland, staring at 3 monitors filled with raw network traffic. The hum of servers bleeds through the walls. You're a computer network operations analyst, entry level. And everything about this job feels surreal. 3 months ago, you were finishing a computer science degree. Now you hold a TS/SCI clearance with additional compartmented access, and the data on your screen represents communications most intelligence agencies on Earth would trade anything to see. Your job at this stage is foundational. You monitor foreign networks for anomalies. You flag ISIS traffic. You learn the agency's proprietary tools, systems with code names you'll never be allowed to say outside this building. It sounds simple, but the learning curve is brutal. The analysts beside you have been here for years, and they still discover new patterns daily. You make a mistake your second week, mislabel a dataset, route a query to the wrong partition. Your supervisor pulls you aside. It's not a shouting match, it's worse. It's a calm, clinical explanation of how that error, at scale, could expose a collection method that took years to build. You don't make that mistake again. The hours are long, the work is repetitive, but every now and then, a packet of data crosses your screen that changes a briefing sent to the White House. And in that moment, you understand why you're here. 6 months ago, you were cataloging metadata. Now you're hunting. You've been promoted to exploitation analyst, and your role has shifted from observation to active pursuit. A senior operator hands you a target package, a foreign intelligence officer operating out of an embassy in Southeast Asia. Your job is to map every digital fingerprint this individual leaves behind. The phone they carry, the laptop they use at a cafe on Tuesdays, the encrypted messaging app they think no one can penetrate. You spend 11 days building a profile so detailed it includes the target's sleep schedule based on device activity alone, and then comes the moment your work pays off. The access you've mapped allows a tailored access team to silently enter a network and retrieve plans for a weapons procurement pipeline feeding a sanctioned nation. You never see the final intelligence product. You never get a medal or a mention. But a week later, a shipment is intercepted in the Indian Ocean, and you know, without anyone telling you, that your 11 days made it happen. The pressure at this level is constant. You're expected to produce results against hard targets with sophisticated counter-surveillance. The people you're tracking know they're being watched. They change devices, rotate encryption keys, use couriers, and you have to be faster, quieter, and more creative every single time. The briefing room is silent, and every seat is taken by someone with a clearance level most government employees will never hold. You're now a cyber network operator, a CNO. And this is your first operational planning session as a primary. The mission involves gaining persistent access to a foreign military command and control network. Not just peeking in, living inside it. You'll be part of a small team tasked with implanting tools that allow continuous monitoring without detection. One wrong keystroke, one packet that looks out of place, and the target's security team burns the access, potentially for good. The planning takes weeks. Every move is rehearsed in a simulated environment that mirrors the target network down to its firmware versions. You learn to think like the network administrator on the other end. What would they notice? What logs do they check? Where are their blind spots? On execution night, you're in a secure operations center. The room smells like stale coffee and tension. Your team lead gives the go, and for the next 4 hours, you move through a foreign system like a ghost. When it's done, the access is confirmed. Persistent, silent, collecting. You lean back and exhale for what feels like the first time in a month. But here's the thing, you can't celebrate. You can't tell anyone. You go home, and when someone asks how your day was, you say, "Fine, busy." That's the life now. You've heard rumors about this unit since your first week at the agency, Tailored Access Operations, TAO. Now you're inside it, and the reality surpasses every rumor. As a TAO specialist, you're part of what many consider the most elite cyber operations unit in the world. Your targets aren't random. They're strategic. Foreign heads of state communication systems, adversary nuclear programs, terrorist financial networks. The tools you use are developed in-house by engineers who will never publish a paper or attend a conference. Some exploit vulnerabilities that the outside world won't discover for years. Your first TAO mission takes you to a forward-deployed location, not behind a desk at Fort Meade, but in a facility overseas, working alongside CIA officers and military cyber units. The operation requires close coordination with signals intelligence collectors on the ground. You're accessing a network that belongs to an organization actively planning attacks against American personnel. The stakes aren't abstract anymore. You can see the names of the people your work protects. You can read the threat reporting that describes what happens if you fail. There's a weight to that. It sits on your chest during every operation. And when the mission succeeds, when the network is mapped, the plans are exposed, and the threat is neutralized before it materializes, that weight doesn't disappear. It just shifts. Because there's always another target, another network, another clock ticking. There's a red phone on your desk now, and when it rings, someone very senior is on the other end. You're a senior technical lead and cyber mission commander. You don't just execute operations anymore, you architect them. A request comes in from the National Security Council. A hostile nation-state has been conducting cyber intrusions against American critical infrastructure, power grids, water treatment systems, transportation networks. The question isn't whether to respond, it's how and how far. You design an operation that balances intelligence collection with disruption capability. You brief a room that includes a 2-star general and a deputy director. They ask hard questions. What's the risk of escalation? What happens if the adversary detects our presence and retaliates? What's the collateral damage to civilian systems connected to the target? You have answers because you've spent weeks wargaming every scenario. But the truth is, in cyber operations, certainty is a luxury you never fully have. You approve the mission. Your team executes flawlessly. The adversary's intrusion tools are identified, mapped, and quietly disabled. No public announcement, no headlines. Just a threat that stops, and a briefing slide that lands in the Oval Office with your operations codename on it. You no longer touch a keyboard operationally. Your weapon is strategy. As Division Chief of Cyber Threat Operations, you oversee hundreds of analysts, operators, and engineers across multiple programs. Your morning starts with a classified briefing on global cyber threats. What happened overnight? What's developing? What's being planned against the United States and its allies? You make resource allocation decisions that shape the agency's cyber posture for months. Which targets get priority? Which operations get funding? Which vulnerabilities get exploited? And which get disclosed to the private sector for patching? That last question is one of the hardest calls in intelligence. You're balancing offensive capability against national defense. Every decision has second and third order effects. A former colleague, someone you trained years ago, comes to you with a proposal for an operation that's technically brilliant but politically explosive. You have to weigh the intelligence value against the diplomatic fallout if it's ever exposed. This is leadership at the hidden edge of national security. The loneliness of it surprises you. The decisions you make will never be reviewed by the public, never debated on cable news, never written about in history books, and yet they shape the safety of millions. A folder lands on your desk marked with a code word you've only seen twice in your career. You're now at the director level of the NSA's Cybersecurity Directorate, or its operational equivalent within the broader signals intelligence mission. You sit in meetings with the Director of National Intelligence, the Secretary of Defense, and the National Security Advisor. The conversations are about deterrence, escalation frameworks, and the rules of engagement for conflicts that happen entirely in cyberspace. A foreign adversary launches a sophisticated attack against a U.S. financial system. Within hours, you're in the situation room. The president asks what options are available. You present 3, each with escalating consequences. The room is quiet as the implications settle. This is the weight of the highest cyber rank. You don't just understand the digital battlefield, you help define its boundaries. You set doctrine. You shape policy. You decide, alongside a handful of others, what America's red lines are in a domain most citizens barely understand exists. And through all of it, you remain hidden. No uniform, no public profile, no recognition outside a very small circle. You started as a name on a badge in a building most Americans drive past without a second thought. You ended as one of the most consequential figures in modern national security. And almost no one will ever know. That's the paradox of the NSA's hidden cyber ranks. The higher you climb, the less visible you become. The more power you hold, the fewer people know you hold it. Every rank demanded more sacrifice, more silence, more precision under pressure that most people will never comprehend. But you didn't do it for the recognition. You did it because someone has to stand between the networks that run the modern world and the people trying to tear them apart. And you were good enough to be chosen. If this deep dive into the NSA's hidden cyber ranks resonated with you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We go deep on the world's most elite and secretive organizations. Next, we're uncovering the classified tier structure inside the CIA's most denied special operations unit. You won't want to miss it.